This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are ready to rock at NRG Stadium. Watt gets him down this time. JJ with the sack. Rock and roll. Touchdown. Deshaun Watson.
Welcome one, welcome all. This is Texans Extra Points. We're so happy that you're with us. My name's Drew Dougherty, and look who it is. He's not going to teach us about the selected works of Nathaniel Hawthorne. He's going to talk some football with us. You're looking sharp, Travis. You doing all right?
I appreciate it, Drew. I appreciate it, man. I can't complain. Well, I can't complain. Homeschool is kicking my behind, but you know, it could be worse.
Yeah, you're humanizing things. You're bringing us all in. This is the great Travis Johnson, former Houston Texan. We got a lot to get to in this show, but we start things off like we always do with some news of the week in the Red Diamond Iced Tea Quick Hits. And the Texans took one on the chins a week ago in Kansas City. But they faced the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday morning at NRG Stadium. And hey, I'm good for a bounce back. You good for a bounce back? I think we're all good for a bounce back, aren't we?
I mean, it's very big. I mean, especially being at home. You know, you got to win your home games. You got to win the AFC games. And this is a great opportunity playing against a great team. You know, that was a playoff team last year. And, you know, we got to try to turn the page and get on that winning streak and start Sunday. So, you know, we got to play sharp, we got to play smart, we got to play fast, and, you know, we got to play as a team.
And when they kick off at 3:25, the Texans will play in front of 0 fans. It's going to be weird. It's the first time that's ever happened in a game at NRG Stadium. And for a lot of guys, you got to go back to Pee Wee football or not at all when they haven't played in front of someone. Nevertheless, not going to be a problem, says Brandon Cooks, Texans wide receiver.
You know, everyone else is pretty much dealing with it. So, you know, honestly, I haven't been thinking about it. At the end of the day, it's just, you know, thinking about going out there and playing good football. You know, sad, you know, we love our fans, don't get me wrong. But with everything going on, we all have to adjust. And so just blessed to continue to play this game and still having game day on Sunday. So, yeah, I'm excited.
That was Cooks, and he says he's going to be good to go. Had a quad injury that he played through last Thursday in Kansas City. But one guy who will not suit up is tight end Kahale Waring. Second-year pro is on the injured reserve at least for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, Kahale had a couple things going on injury-wise, and so we felt like, you know, to put him on IR for, you know, let's just call it 3 weeks, see where he's at after 3 weeks. We felt like that would help him where he is injury-wise.
Okay, so that's some news of the week. We got Travis Johnson, former Houston Texans defensive tackle. Texans got a big task in front of them on Sunday, stopping the Ravens run. But let's take the Ravens out of the equation. What do the Texans need to do better to stop the run? What has to happen?
Well,
what has to change?
I think you got to play a little gap sound defense, a little more gap sound defense. They played all right early, but I think when you're playing a zone defense, you give people places to sit down and move the ball. So it kind of became hard, especially when you got the linebackers turning your back to them in certain coverages if you're a man. It's just difficult, especially playing against somebody like Kansas City because they have so many weapons that you have to account for. You have to account for the tight end. You have to account for the speed in the wide receiver. So it was a lot that went on Anthony Weaver's plate on getting things done. So they kind of were in a gray area of sorts when it comes to defense.
And then on the flip side of things, Deshaun Watson did some things well. I mean, he had that nice touchdown drive early and then a few later in kind of trash time, so to speak. But what do you want to see him improve on, and what did you like from him on Thursday night?
I want to see him get in a better rhythm.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at how this game went, the rhythm early was phenomenal. I thought, to be honest, I felt better about that second series where we scored on the touchdown series than I did in the whole first quarter of the playoff game. Why? Because I saw consistency earlier. But once the protection broke down, the rhythm broke down next, and then all of a sudden we decided we want to be Nebraska of the 90s without the results. You know, so I would love to see them get them in the rhythm early, get the ball to the tight end, get our receivers involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not just 15. Let's get everybody involved. We have a great set of receivers. I think we have to get them in those intermediate routes to move the chains, not always looking for the big shot.
Haven't had a mid-90s Nebraska reference in quite some time, so thank you for bringing that in. You talked about protection, pass protection breaking down a bit. What does the offensive line specifically, because there's a lot of parts to pass protection, but what does the O-line need to do better this week as opposed to last?
Well, probably communicate, and it's tough because going into Kansas City's one of the loudest stadiums in the country, in the league, period. And they caused false starts with 17,000 people in the stands. So I think for us, we have to be listening to his cadence. I think we have to make sure you communicate and let everybody know, what's my job? If I can, as an offensive lineman, everything they do is communication. They have hand signals, and I think when these guys work together a little bit longer, they'll get a little bit better. And so really, you just want them to communicate so they can be able to tell each other what they're doing so they can pass off games, they can work the system the way they need to work the system.
A moment ago, you talked about the rhythm that you saw in that one touchdown drive, and one big part of that, and a big component of that, was David Johnson. It's early, but that was a very, very promising start for him. What were your thoughts on what he did that night? What are your thoughts on what he can do in this offense as the season rolls on?
Man, I was excited. I mean, because when you think about the David Johnson that we saw, I think his first or second year in Arizona, you said, man, this is an all-pro guy. If we can get this David Johnson every week, we're going to have another 1,000-yard running back and more, and we're going to open up the game for Deshaun Watson and make phenomenal plays because now the play-action pass is going to work. The inside-outside zones are going to work because now we can get our offensive linemen moving. The guys early didn't protect the pass. I mean, we're really late, didn't protect the passer well. And I think a lot of that went to we're running the ball. So they got in the rhythm of I'm going to get off. Now you're asking them to set back and protect the passer. So I think that messed it up a little bit. But if it's a little bit of offense, a little bit of run, a little bit of pass, I think it'll help settle them down, and it'll keep the defense honest, because that's one thing you don't want when you get down a lot. Guess what? Defensive line pin their ears back and they go get the quarterback.
Yeah. All right, speaking of defensive lines pinning ears back, Jacob Martin pinned his ears back early in the game at Kansas City. John Harris has a breakdown of what happened with the X's and O's on that one in this week's Telestrator.
Welcome to Texas Telestrator, presented by BMW. I am John Harris, and we're going to take a look at the pass rush and what we would like to see going forward. And this one's going to start with our man right here, Jacob Martin. So let's go to the Surface, powered by Microsoft, and see how Jacob Martin ends up with this sack on Patrick Mahomes. Now, the Chiefs come out here in 11 personnel, one tight end, one running back. That's 11 personnel. And just because there are 3 receivers over here, that doesn't make it 13 personnel. No, it's 11 personnel. That leaves 3 wide receivers out on the field. Now, it depends on how you look at Kelsey. If you call him a receiver, that's 10 personnel. Either way, the Texans are locked up here. They're going to be man across the board. AJ's popping over here as Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets on this side. And then Eric Murray is going to play free in the middle of the field. And they're going to do a really good job here with this coverage. Murray does a good job. Not bad on the Kelsey crosser here with Justin Reed. Thank God that Patrick doesn't see Edwards-Helaire out here, because AJ doesn't see Zach, and they run into each other, but that happens. But the reason that Patrick can't see it is because of this rush right here by Jacob Martin. And Jacob does a great job. You'll see that right hand come up, right? See that right hand come up? And what he's doing is he's chopping his arms down. He's chopping the tackle's arms down, trying to get his hands off of him. So he chops, and then he's going to swipe with the other hand, okay? And he doesn't completely get the hands off. So then he does it again, and now he does it with both hands. So he's going to chop, swipe, and now he's going to double swipe. And when he does that, what he realizes is, hey, Mahomes is a little deeper in the pocket. Boy, I just got to turn and burn to get there. And that's what he's able to do. He gets the sack. Some good stuff on the other side as well. With Charles Omenihu working against Kelechi Osemele. They work a little stump there, and they do a nice job getting to the quarterback. Let's take a look at it from the end zone view, and you'll see Jacob over here. Just love that handwork that he's working against Mitchell Schwartz, one of the best tackles in the league. See how he chops it down, chop down, swipe, doesn't get it, so then he lifts up and then rips. Look, he's doing like 2 or 3 different moves all in the same sequence. It's like karate. It's like Cobra Kai. Strike fast, strike hard, no mercy, sir. And that's exactly what you get here. No mercy from Jacob Martin. Great handwork,
right there. That is excellent stuff as a pass rusher. Just, you see guys do all this before the game and you're like, man, what's all that Cobra Kai, wax on, wax off stuff? Well, that's what it is. Trying to get hands off. And if you get hands off with a guy with that kind of speed, he's going to get to the quarterback. Need more of that the rest of this season.
Handoff, Johnson, right side, 15, breaking a tackle, 10, to the 5, to the pylon. He's in! Touchdown, David Johnson. Welcome to the Texans.
Everybody loves Next Gen Stats, powered by AWS, and this week's is David Johnson. He was tied for second in the NFL last week, 7 yards per carry. Carried the mail 11 times, 77 yards. Drew Dougherty, Travis Johnson here on Texans Extra Points, and this handsome devil in between us is the voice of the Texans, Mark Vanderbeer. I know you're excited about Sunday and the Ravens and being back inside NRG Stadium. So let's just talk about it. I started the show with Travis about it, and I'll start it with you. How big a test is this Ravens offense for the run defense of the Texans?
Obviously, it's a dynamic rushing attack, and you didn't have success against the Kansas City Chiefs in the opener. Now here comes Lamar Jackson, who last we checked likes to run with the rock in his hands, along with the backs. Dobbins has been really good as far as scoring touchdowns so far. The average yard per carry of the Ravens backs, not impressive, but Jackson is. And with that diversified ground game, it's going to be tough to slow them down. However, you've had extra time to get ready for it. That's a big plus. Had an extra day of practice on Monday. I think that's a bit of a plus. But the bottom line is you got to step up at home. You have to find a way to put the brakes on the Ravens often enough and let your offense do the work. You got to score in the 30s to win this game.
Mark, so looking at this past game, what was the bright spot that you saw? Like, I know it was a lot of stuff that wasn't great. And what needs to be improved on?
Well, everybody's talking about David Johnson. His Texans debut was a pretty good one, 77 yards, over 100 total yards. That was nice, but even he said he left yards on the field. So let's see if we get that game 1 to game 2 improvement, Travis. And I love Will Fuller. I mean, Will Fuller had over 100, and it was a quiet over 100, if you know what I mean. It was kind of like a basketball player, just gets a couple of buckets here, there, a few free throws. All of a sudden, he's got 25, 30 points. That's what it felt like with Will. I still think there's a higher ceiling with him in the attack and what he can open up for the other receivers. So it was really encouraging to see what he did. They have to capitalize on what the other guys can do with all the attention he's going to get.
Yeah, that leads me perfectly into my next question. You bring up Johnson, you bring up Fuller, having good games but leaving stuff on the field. So, what other offensive weapons do you think we see more of on Sunday against the Ravens?
I think the tight ends are going to get even more involved. I know Akins had the touchdown reception last week, but I think, again, there's a bigger ceiling for them. And don't we all want to see Randall Cobb do a little bit more out of the slot? Let's see if they can continue to get him involved in the attack. And, Brandon Cooks has always done remarkable things in this league. I'd love to see that get going, but you have a lot of options. So let's see if they can use the tight ends in particular in their favor. And we all want to see them run the football, right? You want to see that ground game really get going this week, because to keep away from Lamar Jackson would be good in this one.
Mark, what's imperative? What's a must-have? What's a must-do for this defense this weekend to win the game?
You got to get a couple of turnovers, Travis, to see the Texans get short fields and be able to. It's a tennis match, right? It's hold serve. If you can break them, you have a big advantage in this game. You have to execute on offense. In some ways, your best defense is a good offense and a ball matriculating down the field kind of offense where you can grind up first downs, clock, etc. But I think the takeaways would be key. And let's see if Baltimore is aggressive, tries to go for it on 4th down a time or two, and you're able to get those 4-down stops. That would be huge as well. But I think stops at the moment of truth. Yardage-wise, the Ravens are going to get theirs, right? Even in the playoff loss to Tennessee, they had over 500 total yards in that game. So never mind yards. They can win the fantasy game. You win the real game by making the stops when it matters the most.
Tennis analogies from Mark Vandermeer, the voice of the Houston Texans. You're the Yvonne Lendl of analysts as far as I'm concerned. All right, we're going to leave you with a little bit of Texans trivia. The first time Houston beat Baltimore, it was a 43-13 win. What year was that? We'll have the answer later on in Texans Extra Points.
Fedorowicz in motion to the right. Keenum with the toss to Arian, running to the right side. Arian throws it to the end zone. Caught! Razzle-dazzle! Touchdown, Texans! Fedorowicz with the TD reception.
Boy, he sold it.
We knew he could run, we knew he could catch, but Arian Foster, he could throw the ball. That was a touchdown he threw in the last Ravens game in the stadium. Hit CJ Fedorowicz there. We got Travis Johnson, I'm Drew Dougherty, and let's talk about these Ravens. A guy who can definitely throw and who can definitely run is Lamar Jackson. Very, very impressive what he's done in his entire short NFL career, but really impressive last year and last week. How do you mess with this guy? How do you slow him down? How do you keep him from just embarrassing you on defense, which he's done to so many different teams?
I mean, you got to hit him. You got to hit him early. I mean, the reigning MVP, he's that for a reason. He's a guy who he can pass the ball, but he's not going to push it downfield too many times. He's going to look to that tight end. That's why I think it's going to be a big game for Zach Cunningham. Zach Cunningham has to make sure he can cover that tight end, and he did it well early in the Kansas City game. I think he got a little discouraged because of some of the things we were in, but I really believe you got to hit him. It's almost treat him like Peyton Manning, but that can actually move.
So when he's throwing the ball, he's finding his tight end, Mark Andrews, quite a bit.
Oh,
and
no
that
question.
guy is one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
How do you contain Andrews? How do you contain Hollywood Brown as well? Those are some two-dimensional guys.
Well, I think Hollywood Brown, I mean, he reminds you of his cousin. He reminds you of Antonio, a young Antonio. Hungry, humble, and hated by defenses. I think Zach Cunningham, the athlete that he is, the reason why we drafted him out of Vanderbilt was his versatility. His versatility in coverage, his versatility in playing the run. He didn't look like, he looked like the new age linebacker. He's tall, he's slim, he can run, but he can cover. And I think that's the biggest thing. We have to make sure we stay on him and we keep him going and make sure we can line, because I really believe we're not going to be able to line up in as much man defense because we don't want to turn our linebackers back to the quarterback. But I really believe that we can get him off we can get Lamar off his spot.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure we keep him almost like a hybrid type of coverage to make sure we keep them contained, but we don't just give them our backs and say, hey, Lamar, run with it.
Now, I know you don't think this, and I don't think this as well, but I think the general public, because they're focusing on how good that Ravens offense is, they're maybe underrating that Ravens defense. Not the case, right? These guys are serious.
Oh, these guys are the real deal. I mean, when you look at Calais Campbell, who, Walter Payton Man of the Year, but he's also a Walter Payton Man of the Year on the field. He's the
nasty,
guy.
yeah.
He is. This is year 13, 14 for Calais, and he's getting better with age, like a fine vino. So you got Derek Wolfe. You got a lot of guys. Pernell McPhee. You got a lot of veterans on this defensive line that are phenomenal. That can really play the game, and it doesn't say enough about how good they can be. And if you get these old guys going, if you get them rolling, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And it's gonna get ugly. But we need to make sure we protect. We got to get those guys. We got to get those guys moved out of those lanes.
All right, time now for our Gatorade players to watch. And when we set all this up, you had like 9 different people. So I'm going to choose for you. You had Titus Howard on there. Why is Titus your Texan player to watch?
I think because we're going to see a veteran Calais Campbell probably line up out there. We're going to see Pernell McPhee go out there. Pernell's an outside linebacker type, hybrid type, who's going to give him a little speed. Calais is going to give him a lot of, Calais is long. I don't think people realize Calais is 6'9", 310 pounds, can move, has phenomenal tools in his toolbox when it comes to pass rush. So it's going to be a game where he's going to be challenged early and often. So he's going to have to say, you know what, I got to make sure I become the guy we think he's going to be and the guy we want him to be. He's going to have to protect Deshaun so Deshaun can stay back there and find the open guys.
You say Calais Campbell is 6'9". I've been on the field when he was with Arizona. I've been on the field when he was with Jacksonville. He looks like he's 7'9". My Gatorade player to watch, I'm going to go with Justin Reed. You brought up safety staying deep. He's going to get challenged with Hollywood Brown and the guys on it. Mark Andrews, his plate's going to be full. We need a good game from him. How about a pick? You want to see a pick? I'd like a pick.
We need plays to be made on defense.
Let's get a takeaway.
We got to get takeaways. If we win the turnover battle, I mean, it's the oldest saying in the book. If you win the turnover battle, you'll win the game.
Yes. You will win if you watch this next segment of Texans Extra Points. Don't move a muscle. We'll be right back.
Texans Extra Points has been sponsored by BHP and by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, by Amagi Bank, official business bank of the Houston Texans, and by Jameson. Tailgate like a Texan with Jameson Irish Whiskey.
Earlier in the show, we had some trivia for you, and the question was, the first franchise win over the Ravens was a 43-13 triumph at NRG Stadium. What year was that? Well, both teams came into the game at 5-1, and the year was 2012. Drew Dougherty, Travis Johnson. It's that time of the show where we get you the First Community Credit Union keys to the game, and we're doing that right here in the Ford Studios. 2 keys. What are they, Travis, for a Texans win?
I think we got to get Deshaun started early. I think we got to make sure we get him in his groove. We got to get him started early. And on defense, we got to get to the passer. We got to put pressure on Lamar Jackson to force him to make mistakes. He hadn't made a lot of them in his short career, but I think this is a game where we can get out there and we got to make him make mistakes. J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, we got to get these guys going, and we got to make sure we can get to the quarterback.
Yeah, they said that themselves. They need to get off the field. So I'm doubling down on that. My 2 keys. No more of these double-digit drives, because that's going to kill you. It killed you a week ago in Kansas City. You got to get off the field. It goes hand in hand with what you're talking about. And then takeaways. Okay, I harp on it all the time, like he just did in the segment before. Let's go +2 in the turnover differential category. If you're going to cough it up or give it up, make sure you get it away from them 2 more times than they got it from you. All right, Travis, great stuff as always. Always appreciate you coming on, and let's do this again soon. Sound good?
I appreciate you having me. I'm always available.
All right, you heard it. We appreciate you watching us. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Till then, go Texans. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.